Greetings, family. We need to dive into the story of Samson, found in the book of Judges, chapter 13. Seriously, one of the most fascinating and tragic figures in the Bible. Now, I get it. When most people hear his name, they think about his strength, those wild feats he pulled off, or maybe even his tangled romance with Delilah. But let me tell you, Samson's story, it goes way deeper than that. It's really about wasted potential, neglecting his divine calling, and the consequences that come from living without discipline. Think about it. Samson's life serves as a warning for anyone who feels gifted, talented, or called to something great, but struggles to live wisely and obey. He had everything he needed to fulfill his destiny, yet his choices kept him from achieving his full potential. So, let's unpack this a bit. Before Samson even took his first breath, God had already set everything in motion for him. That right there tells you he was something special. He was the last of the judges, those warriors and deliverers of Israel. But his story, it didn't kick off on some battlefield. Nah, it began with divine intervention. You see, there was this guy named Manoah from the tribe of Dan, living in the city of Zorah. His wife was barren, meaning she couldn't have kids. But one day, an angel of the Lord shows up and delivers a life-changing message, saying, "Behold now, thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive, and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine, nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive, and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines." Can you imagine that moment? She rushes home to tell her husband, and I can just picture him saying, "Lord, send that angel back. We need more details." And you know what? God answered. The angel came back, laying it all out again. Samson wasn't just any Israelite. He was set apart. Judges 13:24-25 says, "So the woman bore a son and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move upon him at Mahanedan, between Zorah and Eshtaol." Even before he stepped into his calling, God was stirring something inside him. And here's the thing. Sometimes, God begins to move in you before you're even aware of what he's preparing you for. Now this is where things get real for Samson. His downfall? It wasn't that he was weak. It was that he lacked wisdom and self-awareness. Samson was chosen and anointed by God, but lived recklessly. He was gifted, but undisciplined. For a staggering 20 years, he judged Israel, yet not once did he lead them into any battles. Instead, he was a lone warrior, always caught up in his own battles instead of focusing on the collective struggle of his people. The Bible even calls him a hero of faith, found in Hebrews 11:32-34. But let's keep it real. Imagine what more he could have achieved if he had just walked in obedience and was self-aware of his purpose. That's scary stuff when you think about it. Samson's life teaches us a powerful lesson. You can be chosen, gifted, and anointed. But if you don't submit to God's direction, you're setting yourself up to fall short of your full potential. Samson's 3 biggest mistakes. 1. He didn't fully understand his purpose. Samson was born to deliver Israel from the Philistines. But instead of focusing on his calling, he got distracted by his own desires. Instead of leading Israel, he fought personal battles. Instead of seeking God's wisdom, he chased after the wrong women. Instead of walking in discipline, he played around with temptation. Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." When you don't understand your divine purpose, you waste your gifts. Samson's strength wasn't for himself. It was for God's mission. But since he never truly grasped that, he spent his life fighting the wrong fights. 2. He let his pride get the best of him. Samson knew he was strong, but he let his strength become his weakness. One of the most tragic moments in Samson's story happens after he reveals his secret to Delilah. Judges 16:20 says, "But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him." Man, that's deep. Samson kept playing with sin, thinking he could always get away with it. Pride makes you believe you're untouchable, until you wake up and realize God has left you to your own choices. That's why pride is dangerous. It blinds you to your weaknesses. And when you can't see your weaknesses, you set yourself up for failure. 3. He lived without spiritual discipline. Unlike Moses, David, or Paul, who constantly sought God, Samson didn't build a real relationship with the Lord. He only called on God when he was in trouble. He was chosen by God, but he didn't stay connected to God. And listen, this is why so many people today struggle with wasted power potential. They have gifts but no prayer life. They have talent but no discipline. And without those, your strength will eventually fail. Samson lost everything: his strength, his sight, his dignity. But even in his lowest moment, God wasn't done with him. Judges 16:28 says, "Then Samson called to the Lord, saying, 'O Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray, just this once, O God, that I may with one blow take vengeance on the Philistines for my 2 eyes.'" Even after all his failures, God still answered his prayer. Samson's greatest victory came not in his life, but in his death. But what if Samson had lived fully for God from the start? Here's my final thoughts. What will you do with what God gave you? You see, Samson's story isn't just history. It's a mirror. It forces us to ask, what am I doing with what God gave me? Am I walking in my kingdom purpose? Am I letting pride blind me? Am I building a real relationship with God? Samson had everything he needed to be great. So do we all as believers. The difference is what we do with it. See, Matthew 25:23 says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So I ask you, my friends, will those be the words God speaks over your life? Will you learn from Samson's mistakes and walk faithfully in your purpose? Or will you too be consumed by your own hubris, only to lose everything in the end? The choice, as it was for Samson, is yours alone to make. If this message hit home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Stay strong, stay faithful, and don't let your story be one of wasted potential. Until next time, take care.